Hello, welcome to the Self Learning Podcast by Dr. Sushma Singh. Let us start discussion on Chapter 4 Culture and Socialization. And our topic is Dimensions of Culture. Three dimensions of culture have been distinguished. The first one is cognitive, the second normative, and third material. The first one is cognitive. This refers to how we learn to process what we hear or see so as to give it meanings, identifying the ring of a cell phone or as ours, recognizing the cartoon of a politician. The second one is normative. This refers to rules of conduct, not opening other people's letter, performing rituals at death. The third one is material. This includes any activity made possible by means of materials. Materials also include tools or machines. Examples include internet chatting, using rice flour paste to design column on floor. It may have occurred to you that our understanding of material culture, especially art, is incomplete without knowledge acquired from the cognitive and normative ideas. It is true that our developing understanding of social process would draw upon all these areas, but we might find that in a community where few have acquired the cognitive skill of literacy, it in fact becomes the norm for private letters to be read out by a third party. But as we see below, to focus on each of these areas separately provides many important insights. Now, let us discuss cognitive aspects of culture. The cognitive aspects of one's own culture are harder to recognize than its material aspects, which are tangible or visible or audible, and its normative aspects, which are explicitly stated. Cognition refers to understanding how we make sense of all the information coming to us from our environment. In literate societies, ideas are transcribed in books and documents and preserved in libraries, institutions, or archives. But in non literate societies, legends or lore is committed to memory and transmitted orally. There are specialist practitioners of oral tradition who are trained to remember and narrate during rituals or festival occasions. Let us think about how writing may affect the production and consumption of art. In his influential book, Orality and Literacy, Walter Ron cites a study of 1971 that states that only 78 of the approximately 3,000 existing languages possess a literature. Ong suggests that the material that is not written down has certain specific characteristics. There is a lot of repetition of words to make it simpler to remember. The audience of an oral performance is likely to be more receptive and involved than would be readers of a written text from an unfamiliar culture. Texts become more elaborate when they are written. In societies like ours, historically literacy has been made available only to the more privileged. Sociological studies are often concerned with the investigating how literacy can be made relevant to the lives of people whose families have never gone to school. This can lead to unexpected responses, like a vegetable seller who asked why he needed to know the alphabet when he could mentally calculate what his customers owed him. The contemporary world allows us to rely far more on written, audio, and visual records. Yet, students of Indian classical music are still discouraged from writing down what they learn rather than carrying it in their memory. We still do not know enough about the impact of the electronic media, of the multiple channels, of instant accessing and surfing. Do you think these new forms impact our attention span and cognitive culture? Now, let us discuss normative aspects of culture. The normative dimension consists of folkways, mores, customs, conventions, and laws. These are values or rules that guide social behavior in different contexts. We most often follow social norms because we are used to doing it as a result of socialization. All social norms are accompanied by sanctions that promote conformity. We have already discussed social control in chapter 2. While norms are implicit rules, laws are explicit rules. Perry Bourdieu, the French sociologist, has reminded us that when we try to understand another culture's norm, we must remember that there are certain implicit understandings. For example, if a person wants to show gratitude for something he or she has been given, she should not offer a returning gift too quickly, or it seems like an attempt to get rid of a debt, not a friendly gesture. A law is a formal sanction defined by government as a rule or principle that its citizens must follow. Laws are explicit. They are applicable to the whole society, and a violation of the law attracts penalties and punishment. If in your home children are not allowed to stay outdoors after the sundown, that is a norm. It is specific to your family and may not be applicable to all families. However, if you are caught stealing a gold necklace from someone else's house, you have violated the universally accepted law of private property and can be sent to jail after trial as punishment. Laws which derive from the authority of the state are the most formal definitions of acceptable behavior. While different schools may establish different norms for students, laws were applied to all those accepting the authority of the state. Unlike laws, norms can vary according to status. Dominant section of society apply dominant norms. Often these norms are discriminating. For example, norms that did not allow Dalit from drinking water from the same vessel or even source, or women from moving freely in the public sphere. Now let us move to the next point, material aspects of culture. The material aspect refers to tools, technology, machines, buildings, and modes of transportation, as well as instruments of production and communication. In urban areas, the widespread use of mobile phones, music systems, cars and buses, ATMs, refrigerators, and computers in everyday life indicates the dependence on technology. Even in rural areas, the use of transistor radios or electric motor pumps for lifting water from below the surface for irrigation demonstrates the adoption of technological devices for increasing production. In sum, there are two principal dimensions of culture, material and non-material. While the cognitive normative aspects are non-material and the material dimension is crucial to increase production and enhance the quality of life. For integrated functioning of a culture, the material and non-material dimensions must work together. But when the material or technological dimensions change rapidly, the non-material aspects can lag behind in terms of values and norms. This can give rise to a situation of culture lag when the non-material dimensions are unable to match the advances of technology. Now let us wind up the session and thank you very much for engaging yourself with the Self Learning podcast.